welcome everybody. Let's talk real estate. Your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California. As we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, it's Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Hey, good morning, Paul, and good morning to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. We are back here again. It is Tuesday. I am Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company. We're here to talk some more real estate. Before we get going, I do want to do a shout-out to the Indiana Hoosiers, who last night won the NCAA Football National Championship. Congratulations to them. When I say it was a long time coming, it was like 100 years or something. And good luck to them again next year on trying to repeat, but congratulations for this year. With all of that said, we got a special show today. We got a couple special guests in the audience. I want to welcome our guest, Paul Daftarian, co-founder, managing director, principal of the Daftarian Group here in Newport Beach, one of Orange County's premier, if not the premier, high-end residential real estate brokers and agents. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you.
And we've got sitting off in the distance our good friend Bill Colston, who goes way back with both of us, introduced us both back into the mortgage business, a jack of all trades. He's here just for moral support.
My security blanket.
Yes, and he'll probably escort you out when we're done, too.
He has been an escort, too, by the way.
So, Paul, you've had a long history in the mortgage side of things, in the real estate side of things, transactional oriented. I want to go back a little bit to the early 2000s when you got in the mortgage business, because at that time the mortgage business was booming. Everybody was in it. Everybody was making money. It was a great thing to be in. And then all of a sudden one day it dried up. But that's where I first met you. How did you get into the mortgage side of things, and what was the driver at that point?
Yeah, what was interesting is I went to a high school in North Orange County called Orange Lutheran High School, OLU. I did well academically, and then my parents had a lot of pressure. Immigrant parents from Iran, they were like, be a surgeon or else we're basically going to disown you. And I couldn't stand the sight of blood, nor did I have any interest to go to medical school. So I found every reason to try to figure out how to be a salesperson. So I took jobs at Summers, timeshare sales, which was intense. I was lucky enough, fortunate, I think it was like guiding light from God above, that every job I had was probably working for the most difficult, demanding people on the planet, with the exception of when I worked for Billy at Anvil Funding. That was the late 90s, I think.
Yeah, in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Right? But really what ended up happening is I decided to drop out of college because I didn't see myself graduating with an undergraduate degree, then going to post-grad, and then with an MBA or something. I just wanted to get into the business world, get out of my parents' house, and the mortgage business was something that was, while I was going to school, was a nighttime thing. I was actually working for a company called Home Loan Funding in 1996.
Yeah.
And they also owned Interstate Bank at the time, I think, and went from telemarketing room to salesperson. I remember watching this portly gentleman lean back in his chair when I was transferring him leads in 95 at night at 8 p.m. Those annoying phone calls back then before all the different rules and laws that came out. But he was drinking, remember the red and blue sugar and creamer with the little styrofoam cups? Why were the styrofoam cups like a shot glass? But I watched him and he fumbled his words, and I thought the guy was either something was wrong with him, he was slow. He ended up coming back saying, oh, great lead, I apped the client, and a month later he said he made like $8,000 on it. I said, wow, if you're not that bright, I could do this better than you.
Yeah, it's almost like a Wolf of Wall Street kind of a story where you're like, if this guy can do it.
Yeah, minus the midgets, yeah. But,
right, yeah.
So that was my introduction to the mortgage business. And then I loved sales since I was a little kid. I loved people, personality, psychology, all that. If you could say I was definitely more into wondering what makes people do certain things, not just watching the action itself. I was very curious. And I think the mortgage business was a great outlet for salesmanship and to start into a craft. And then I was mentored by great salespeople, always the youngest guy. Imagine I dropped out of college. I graduated high school when I was 17, and bright and eager and didn't mind working crazy hours. So I was working 12, 13 hours, full-time party schedule at the same time, and just burning the candle at both ends, loving it. And then it was shooting fish in a barrel when I got into it, because it was 99, 2000, and then the tragedy of 9/11 hit, and that's when things really got on pause. That was my first experience where something completely out of control just rocked your entire industry and your ability to make money.
And then it happened again a few years later with the recession? I mean,
It did. It was like, it felt every day from 2001 to 2006 lasted like a year because it just felt like such a long span. I was working with Billy here sitting in the audience, and it was, again, that group of kind of a, definitely not a Wolf of Wall Street, but that kind of band of like maybe 4, 5, 6 people that really had one superpower in some aspect of business. To learn from everybody older than me. I was a quick study, and I think it was a great, if you will, School of Hard Knocks MBA program that kind of catapulted me into whatever I did, ended up just feeling very easy to be at the top.
Yeah, and it was a time where, number one, the interest rates were dropping, and so you could go back and refinance people from their mortgage, and then it would drop again, and you'd go do it again. Or you'd go to people who had shaky credit, who maybe in a normal set of circumstances couldn't get a loan or couldn't get the loan.
I know, if you remember, though, too, also we had 125s. There were second mortgages, like a credit card tied to your house
Just
at
a giant
120. Yeah, I remember negative amortized loans and the 125. I said, I think the devil's running Wall Street because this is not nice. Like, you know, as nice as I thought I was, I tell people when I give them the neg am option, I'm like, choose option 3, the interest only at a minimum. Don't choose option 1. And the 80-year-old guy that lived in Downey. And but yeah, it was a time where you could go after business, and then as the market was in your favor, just take that same client and turn him into another mortgage where it saved them money and it brought in dollars to the business. It was just interesting at that time where you watched certain mortgage companies stayed small, then other ones got big, and then other ones just went multi-state, had a huge exit. We had an interesting owner that we ended up becoming partners with. The guy spent every dollar he made and wanted to expand and thought big, but unfortunately not big enough. I think it was a great lesson where after we went into 06, really it was when our market slowed down, like October of 06, into 08, the Great Recession, that survival skill. I had a bunch of rental properties. Every tenant squatted on me.
Yeah.
In 07, 08, I was just burning through my savings I think I was 26 at the time, 28. And I think that those kind of hardships define somebody's will to get past it and just have focus and belief and confidence. You make jokes like put your big boy pants on, separates the men from the boys, the ladies from the girls. And really it's just having either sheer stupidity that you can't realize what's happening. You're so arrogant or confident, you just power through that kind of bad time in the market, which is rare. The majority of the people have to really get out of the negative head space and stop looking at the credit card statements and the bleeding every month and all that kind of stuff. But I think it did teach you, one, you got to have some money for a rainy day.
Yeah.
2, when things go bad in the world, if you have cash and credit, you can actually turn it into opportunity. This is the experience. And 3, you could pick up some great people that you probably never would have even interviewed with you before because they're desperate for a job. I remember we hired some senior level management person. This guy had an MBA from Harvard. I was like laughing.
Why are you here?
Yeah, I was like, the whole ownership panel dropped out of college, right? Yeah. Yeah, but no, it was amazing times. It was the wonder years in our business. And then I remember when I bought my first house, I was 20, I think I was 22, sorry. I loved the real estate transaction. I just really liked the transaction of it.
You like getting the keys and that's it?
No, I loved like the making the offer, studying the comps beforehand. Mind you, I'm a mortgage broker. We obviously did a lot of business with realtors. We did a ton of purchase transactions. So I was involved in many aspects in the purchase transaction, but being the principal, the buyer or the seller, in that case, the buyer, I loved the negotiation aspect of it. I loved managing the whole process where the inspection could bring out all these negative things and how do you manage all that. I guess I love the psychological component of the purchase rather than the real property.
Yeah. And at that time, there was certainly opportunity, right? And so if you did have cash and you could make deals, there were very few people out there that were able to do that. And then as the economy moves forward and comes out of the recession, let's move fast forward. So now we're 2010, 11, 12. It's coming out.
Those were the interesting years. Yeah. I was newly married at the time to my ex-wife and who happens to be the co-owner of the company and our broker, Lily, and went from being flush with cash to almost being broke. I remember one time we put like a utility bill on a credit card. That's how bad things were like in 2009.
Yeah, 2009-10 was absolute bottom. I was hiring bankruptcy attorneys and trying to figure out what the plan was and which properties I could keep and which I could give back or how that went.
Yeah, because again, I remember some of the houses I had went down to 50% of what I paid for them
Yeah.
years earlier.
Especially when you own something that's 100 yards from the beach and the bank's telling you, hey, it's worth half what you paid. And you're going, how could that be?
Yeah, my mistake was I had real estate like inland in not inland, but North Orange County, Lime Hills, Serrano Heights, Villa Park area, then like Ladera Ranch, then like Mission Viejo. The stuff that you looked at if you had in like Newport Beach or Irvine, I quickly realized areas that were, if not landlocked, had a good public school system, had a lifestyle. I call it like the lifestyle tax, right? So if people would rather give their car back than lose where they live because it's their identity. I remember like Billy sitting in the audience lived in Corona Del Mar on the north side of the village there, and that was his identity. He was like, Ken and Barbie live in Corona Del Mar. He would have severed his like left arm to not say he could live in that place. He would literally take a bike to work. So you don't have that when you live in like Tustin. Nothing against people that live in Tustin, but like I remember when I was in real estate.
Think of people who own stuff in Riverside or in the Inland Empire. I mean, at that time.
But over there, at least you could say you're getting so much house for the money. You know, these kind of outer from when you get 5 miles out of the beach, the coastal area, unless there's a pocket like a Rossmore or something, there isn't that. I'll tell you, here's what I love about what I do now is, not to jump ahead, but when people come and see my listings, they literally have all these wants and desires of all these properties, and they have all this ability to spend money, $5, $10, $20, $50 million, and they come back and there's 2 homes they can see. There's never enough supply of what they want in any market because they're just not making more homes. You've got to tear down, rebuild, or buy the older ones. When I lived, for example, I remember I was short selling a property in Serrano Heights, and even I've listed other homes in Anaheim Hills. People will say I'm looking in Orange Park Acres, Anaheim Hills, Yorba Linda, Serrano Heights, Orange, like 6 neighborhoods in that. Yeah, we're looking at 28 homes in the next 3 days. It's too many options.
Or you'd have, at that time, you literally had half the block could have signs out in front of them.
Yeah, again, not as much in Newport, especially when you get down to the beach. Now, the beach is obviously a specific buyer, right? It's either a landlord looking to rent or someone looking to vacation or somebody who's crazy enough like you to live there full time.
Yeah.
But most people are going to go into those family neighborhoods, right, where they can have the picket fence, which would just be a guard gate like in Newport Coast, and send their kids to public school and then have the greatest life they think they've ever had. Those people are not letting their houses go. They're not defaulting on the rent as much as those other areas. So I realized, okay, it is really about location. Back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, we started flipping homes. My ex and I and her family, we did about 110 flips. That was interesting. Really learned a lot. And then just jumped into, I remember I'd had a lot of tequila one night with a friend of mine. And he said, man, you are literally built after all this experience. Because I do like the finer things in life. I've been around it since I was a kid. Doesn't define who I am. Material things don't even matter. We know that. But I just knew about it. I knew what people wanted at the time. I knew how to forecast trends with any furniture, where to travel, where to eat, let alone where to live. And they were like, you should get into luxury real estate sales. And I was thinking, okay, if I'm buying all these flips and I'm having to partner with my, at the time, wife's uncle, and then we put all this time and energy, after 6 months, we make $100,000. And it's like going to the job site every day because we were only buying like $500,000 to $1 million homes back then, which still felt expensive. And I thought I could sell a $5 million home and make the same thing.
Amount of money.
Yeah.
And no skin in the game.
We always spent money on our listings. That's what got us to where we were. We weren't thrifty like a lot of the other agents, but yeah, very little skin in the game.
So what you're saying is the epiphany moment was tequila assisted.
That's where I really got into añejo, and ultra añejo tequila was like my ayahuasca.
And knowing you, it was more than 1 or 2 drinks at that point.
It was more than a couple.
Yeah. And that's when the hallucinations start coming. You're thinking, hey, I could do this.
Yeah.
So you start the Daftarian group, right?
About 14 years ago.
Yeah. And just like me, you put your name on the door so you don't forget where you work. And then...
And nobody cares.
Yeah. And people can find you, good and bad, right?
Yeah.
And the game plan at that time was what? I'll just get some listings and I'll try and make some money and I'll sell some homes. Was there a market niche at that point? Or was it, let me just eat what I can kill at the time?
So the reason why we started the business was to, at the time, we saw a major void in the business, and I'll tell you why. It was a great passing of the guard. So if you look at real estate in greater Newport Beach and coastal Orange County, there was these John McMonagles and Leanne Canadays and these people that had been on the car wash magazines and the mailers in your mailbox, and it didn't matter if you drove through north or south of the beach, you'd always see these same for sale signs, right, with their pictures on the wooden for sale signs. So now things started getting digital. A lot of those people, for some reason, got into either development or started running big teams. not the names I mentioned, but just a lot of heavy hitting agents that got out of the business. If you notice, like life cycle for luxury real estate agents is about a decade. That's where they hit either burnout and fade out, or they get into something else like development, or just make enough money where they own real estate, because people tell themselves, I don't like working open houses, I hate working 7 days a week, and that becomes their mantra. So they want to get out of it. So that's where you see this. If you could just go on the MLS, I've probably spent an hour to 2 hours on the MLS a day, 7 days a week for about 15 years. So I look at that as like second to the Bible of real estate. That's where you get all the data, and you can study the trends just from that. But at the time, the void was a lot of the mid-price range at the time was like 2 to 5 million in Newport. Those agents went up to the custom homes, and they left the sheep alone over there and ready to be attacked.
And then who you're competing with is, in a lot of those instances at that time, and then even still today, but more so at that time, was the weekend warrior, the housewife, and you could make one deal and make more
the country
money.
Club connection, I call it, right? Yeah. What was interesting, though, is at the time, because we came out of flipping those properties, I had learned how to very quickly and with the least amount of money invested make something look really nice. And it was just perfect timing, because most of the homes, we focused on Newport Coast. Why? It had the highest turnover. Okay, so like where I first met you at the beach by the peninsula, the average time someone lives or owns one of those properties, depending on price points, like 10 to 12 years. In Newport Coast, it was only less than 4 years.
Because they were either trading up or outgrowing the place or moving.
Well, there's an unspoken rule that, one, you do need space as you get, at different seasons of your life, right? Single, engaged, married, children get bigger, yard, dog, then too big, now we got to downsize, right? So that cycle works really well, because what happened with tract homes, they've usually maximized like the buildable space of the house. So it's not like the port streets where you bought a bungalow for 1,800 square feet and then you tore it down later and built like a 6,000 square foot house. People in Newport Coast, instead of tearing down, the homes aren't old enough, it didn't make sense, so they would just move up. So there's a lot of transactional movement just for lifestyle, for use of property. And at that time, they were old. They were Mediterranean. The Donald Brent Irvine Company motif, which is like the fake foam, not even precast arches on all the tract homes, and everything looking like you're in Tuscany or Italy or Spain, wherever the places that they try to mimic. People wanted this like white transitional look, like whiter walls, brighter, maybe not so heavy, the medieval times colors. So what we did is we called it the DG Special. We would come in there and paint, do lighting, at that time probably do floors, because stone was out, wood was in, like French oak at the time. And then we'd stage, we'd freshen up the landscaping and try to make it look as close to a model home as we could. And then our homes started selling faster and for, at the time, record prices. So we started getting noticed that way. That was our difference.
Yeah, and then the interest rate still stayed low, and then the MO was, look, if I'm building and I'm in that phase of my life, I want a bigger house, I want a more expensive house, I want to move up, whatever that definition is for somebody. And so people were all trying to do that, and the interest rates really weren't a factor because they were so low, they allowed you to be able to do that.
And what was happening is the combination, you're right, of the low rates and the appreciation, the rapid appreciation growth. I turned a lot of people that had, call them, let's say, physicians, lawyers, just business professionals, that I said, listen, let's turn your home into your flip project. And at the end of 10 years, you'll have an extra $5 million in equity when we get to the promised land of the Pelicans.
Yeah, and it worked, right? And people were doing it. And it's funny because I would meet with people on the commercial side, and then they thought that they were experts in commercial real estate because they bought a house for $2 million and somebody told them it was worth $4 million, and all of a sudden I'm an expert, which doesn't make you an expert
no,
by any means, but that's the mentality. And so while this is going on, I guess talk about what's happened on the brokerage side of things, right? Because you're building a business, you're increasing your stable of clients and the people around you. And I felt like there were people that kept cutting out of the business because it's very hard. It's great to make one deal once in a while, but you can't continue to keep doing that. And then from a competition standpoint, it's not a difficult to sell to pitch against somebody who made one deal here and there when you're doing it every day.
I think what we decided to do early on, when I say we, Lily and I, we really wanted to home grow our agents. So most of our agents either were brand new agents or literally got licensed with us. And we learned that from the mortgage business back with Billy days when we had, it was like the Bad News Bears, right? That references a team that is the underdog that no one thought would do well. They stuck me like managing the telemarketing room at our mortgage company, which was basically crackheads and liars. That's who I got to manage.
Heavy smokers.
Heavy, yeah, missing teeth.
Yeah.
Everybody had a bus pass. And I said, okay, this like affluent kid from Anaheim Hills wearing my Gucci sweater. I got nothing in common with these guys and gals, but I'm going to make them I'm going to ring the bell and make these guys I'm going to turn some of these people into loan officers, like against all odds. It was like the Rudy story. And anyways, so that model, for better or for worse, I brought into this real estate platform where everybody valued these high-end, like big track record players where they're like, hey, I'll give you 70, 80, 90%. Just come and bring your business and your team over to my brokerage. I was like, absolutely not. I remember in the mortgage business, we would go pitch realtors to do business with us. And then I'd go into an office and there was 200 agents or 100 agents. And I'd be like, I would probably only work with 5 or 10 of these people out of all of them. So what I thought was, and nothing against realtors, but it is a part-time business, especially back then.
Yeah.
You don't have people that are 110% committed, psycho-competitive. Everything comes second to business, and that's my mentality. Ask my ex-wife and my children, but just kidding, love you girls. But that you have to home grow, right? You got to find...
Well, yeah, otherwise people are going to leave you for an extra 3% on the split, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody who's just humping for an 80 or a 90 or 95% split.
Yeah, I tell them, like, just listen, go to Keller Williams. Now they have these like sides, these businesses where you don't even need to be a broker. You just kind of run autonomously and do that, right? If that's what you want to do, if you want to get as close to 100% as possible, I always say people look at the analogy of the grape and the watermelon, right? Like 10% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape, right? I can't work with stupid people. Like I just say dumb things and I can't. It just brings me down. I'm a big high energy environment person.
No one would know that, just meeting you right off the street. I feel it now that you're here.
Yeah.
But
No, I turned ADD into something positive. But I home grew these agents, and I literally verbatim was like, this is like how you're going to speak to people. This is how you're going to dress. You're going to reshape your social media.
It's a pitch, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a corporate pitch. We do nothing different. I don't know how you do it at your end, but we used to sit and videotape ourselves just like we're doing now. And I would come in and pretend to be the client, or we would have friends of mine or strangers. We'd invite them in for the day and buy them lunch and say, hey, I want you to listen to my guy's pitch and see if you would actually hire him at the end of the day and what the good and the bad was, and they'd critique it.
How did that go?
Went well in that as long as you can take constructive criticism, right?
Yeah.
Somebody says to you, hey, stop fidgeting with your hands, or you never looked me in the eye, or you didn't really hook me at the end of the day. And so we did it for years. It worked well. And then I got old and got sick of looking at myself. And to some degree, you shoot from the hip, but you have to have a story, right?
Yeah, for the record, Barry looks exactly the same as when I met him in 1999.
Yeah, I looked old then, so that's the problem.
It worked in your favor. You looked 50 then, and now you look 50.
Right. That's how I got hired. They're like, wow, he's a seasoned guy.
Yeah. Benjamin Button over here.
That is a funny story. Not that I didn't want to take away from focusing on you, but I remember I was like you. I was a young guy. I was 22 years old. I put a suit on. These were the 80s, right? I had suspenders. I had shiny shoes.
Wall Street days.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to go in and pitch, and I'm waiting in the reception of this insurance
Did you have
company.
your Mont Blanc pen in your jacket?
I was a smaller one than I have today, but yes,
yeah.
my father got it for me. I didn't have the money to buy it then, but I had my notepad. I was all good to go. I had rehearsed. I'm going to pitch, and I'm sitting in the reception area, and the guy's receptionist says to me, I said, oh, there's a picture of a pretty girl sitting behind her. I said, oh, who's the pretty girl in the picture? And she says to me, oh, that's my daughter. And I'm thinking, geez, maybe she would fix me up with her. She looks about the same age. She says to me, so do you have kids that age? And then I went, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you did always have this, like, quiet, confident, regal, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to be an asshole look on your face all the time.
Yeah. And then the tequila helped remove the look.
Because there's Party Barry and then there's Business Barry.
Business Barry's got a different MO.
Unlike our buddy over here in the corner just constantly chuckling. This guy's like on helium 24/7.
Well, he knows. He sees it firsthand for both of us. We can't let him write a book or anything. He's got too much information.
No, absolutely. He knows where the bodies are buried.
So I want to fast forward because we could do this stuff all day, I'm certain. But so let's go forward to today. In the last year or so, you really have hit the ball out of the park, right? You have closed some of the largest, if not the largest, residential transactions in Orange County.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to say this again this year or any year after, but yeah, we were either the listing agent or the buyer's agent on the 3 most expensive homes to sell in all of Orange County in 2025. That was probably my proudest moment in business. And the sad part is we were so busy we didn't even really have time to celebrate it. It just happened. It was like watching like a eclipse. You just watched it happen, you moved on. And we were part of those big deals. Part of it is just staying consistent, following up with clients, using those old sales tactics that just never fail, just follow up, be in front of people. We do a lot of fun parties. We do, I think, the industry's best holiday party. We do call it a Christmas party too, by the way. But anyways, and we throw a lot of events. We do a lot of lifestyle events at our clients' homes that are usually not occupied. And we celebrate a lot of what Orange County is. So we're constantly in front of people. We offer value, right? I don't just pitch people on, hey, sell your house for no reason. It's really to get something done. And we have no problem selling into the future on price to people that don't want to sit there and look for 3 years. And I think those kind of sales skills with the backing of adding value resonates with high net worth and ultra high net worth people. We, I think, are known for breaking records. And I got to tell you, it's that part of it's the Persian DNA, but the other part of it, because both my parents are Persian and they like negotiate. My dad negotiates at the grocery store still to this day, and I'm like, Dad, they can't change the SKU number. Doesn't even if you win, you won't.
He doesn't know that.
No, he's doing it for sport. He's 93, almost 94. God bless him. Still driving probably right now. But Dad, get off the road. But anyways, what was interesting was that I think coming from that flipping, when you have your own money in a deal,
right?
And whether it's all your money or you have a partner, you're sweating bullets the day it hits the market, and you want it to sell so bad. And you would always think, if I could just be the realtor, because I don't think they're doing enough. That's what every seller thinks. I just thought, let me address those concerns and act like a principal versus a broker.
You look at their money as if it was your money.
Yeah,
That's what we tell our clients.
You ever drive up San Joaquin to Newport Coast Drive and see that big house on the corner of Spyglass Hill with the American flag?
Yeah.
Probably one of my proudest real estate moments of my life. I was driving by that house 25 years. It always has an American flag. It's majestic. It's a big Tuscan property right on the corner there as you drive up San Joaquin. And then he does the red Christmas tree instead of the flag during the Christmas time. And I go, I wonder how good the view is from up there, and also how bad the road noise is. So what's interesting is he was about to interview me and 7 other agents. He decides not to when he wants to sell, he and his wife. My barber, shout out to Charlie, ends up telling the guy, you have to call Paul. This guy is the one that sells, him and his team sell these houses that don't have any comps, which this house would not. It's a larger lot, larger scale, better view than most of the homes in that area in Spyglass Hill. So when he interviewed agents, he finally on the second round interviewed me. And I was, again, like many spots and moments in my life, the underdog, right? Because he was going to go with other agents they had personal relationships with, or really just hyper-focused in that one little neighborhood. And they all told him it was worth $12-13 million. I said, listen, that's a teardown price, because the lot was exceptional. It was 1.3 acres, but really, not to bore you, but about 13,000 square feet of like buildable pad, and it had a 7,000 square foot home in a neighborhood that most homes were like 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. Irregardless, fast forward, we listed the house for $19 million. In 3 months, we sold it for $18 million, $4 to $5 million more than all the top brokers told him it was worth. Because it wasn't luck. We set the house up and we did it in a way with the staging and a little bit of improvement to it to focus on the turnkey buyer that was into Tuscan. Because everybody was like, hey, in that part of the world, everybody just wants modern. So that's not the case. 90% of the buyers do, and 90% of the people that came in and saw it said it was a teardown. But we were like, hey, we're getting paid to find this 1 or 2 buyers that like this style and see that the views it's an emotional view. You see it, it makes you feel like you've seen one of the most beautiful things in your life. It's like when you go to Hawaii or you watch the sunset somewhere and you're just mesmerized, and we were waiting for that spell to hit someone. It hit this buyer. They saw what we saw, and we sold it at the the 5th of January this month. And it was like just an industry rocking sale, because I'll tell you this, the most expensive home in Spyglass, how much do you think that is up until this sale? What do you think the most expensive home to sell was?
I have no idea, but it's got to be a heck of a lot less than $18 million.
$10 million.
Yeah. So
$10 million.
10 or 12.
Yeah.
So it's a good story, and then you build on that for the next one, right? And
but I think, because I know we don't have endless amounts of time, but those record sales are great because people are like, okay, that's a trophy lot. What about the rest of the homes? Where's the market at? I got to tell you, tariffs were a kick in the shin. Really just a gut punch last year. It literally froze the market. If a lot of people don't know, the higher end luxury market in Orange County, especially when you get over $10 million, is still dominated with local buyers. Now, they don't have to live here full time, but most of the times they have a property here and they're either looking to upsize or they're upsizing their primary residence. These are like, this isn't Miami, it's not LA, it's not New York, it's not Hong Kong, it's not that global market. People aren't moving from Dubai and Vegas here. People from here are going to Dubai and Vegas and Florida. The point is, we market to this local market, and we have a foreign demographic, especially in areas like Newport Coast and Irvine, from mainland China, right? Yeah. These people coming, there's always at different times in California, there's been groups of ethnicities that have come, and since the last 10 or so years, it's been a lot of foreign Chinese. They were gone out of the market, especially over the higher end.
And are they back now because the tariff is eased?
Well, remember a few months ago, Trump was saying 100% tariff. Yeah. So we all knew that probably wasn't going to happen, but there was a lot of concern. So it just brought the amount of buyer pool. It shrunk the buyer pool by half immediately. And homes just sat on the market. It was like watching paint dry. And it was so much harder to get showings and get offers. There was no, in our business, if there's no sense of urgency, that stagnant market is worse. You'd rather see prices go down or up than flat. And what happened was, after in October, November, the tariffs kind of eased up. It wasn't going to be 100%. Then we saw different buyers get back in the market. Yeah. And then everyone said, okay, hey, we think the prices are going to drop because we're listening to national news that home prices are softening because other areas have too much inventory.
Which is just not the case in Newport Beach.
No, because we're a micro market in a micro market, right? Orange County is its own market, and then the coast is its own market, and then you have all these little enclaves that are those micro markets, and there's still not enough inventory. So what we saw from end of December till now is a lot more buyers out there. We can always gauge it on showings, offers, and sales. And the things I always watch, the indicators are, you get into like sales, where's the pricing? Is it the same? Is it up? Is it down? And they're up right now. So even if it's a few percentage points, it means that there's still buyer confidence to pay a little bit more than the last sale, which is always good for the market. You're not seeing these 10, 20, 30% increases, but that's basically where the market's at. A lot of people have money, and you can see, like, for example, you and I love Ferraris. If you want to go buy a hybridized Ferrari, you could get 20, 30, 40% off a used one right now. But if you want to go buy the non-hybrid Ferraris, they've gone up 20, 30% in the other direction, right? I was looking at buying a Ferrari Pista a coupe in the 500s. They're $800,000 just 9 months ago. They were that much lower in price, but that's what's happening with these trophy properties in Orange County.
Isn't that just simple supply and demand?
What else governs real estate?
Right. And so then the issue is, what is the difference between a $10 million property and an $18 million property? And the answer is somebody's willingness and want to pay it. Just like you say, if I fell in love with that house and that was my thing and I wanted it, I could haggle, I could wait and see if the price drops, or how many options do I have to really pick from? And then I find that with residential as opposed to commercial, you do get a lot more emotional because you're living there, right?
Yeah, commercial guys like you hate residential because none of it the numbers don't make sense. If you could get a house $5 million cheaper and just do a $500,000 remodel,
right?
Every investor, developer, commercial guys, I like the cheaper option. But because this is an emotional sale and your kids are going to sleep there and your dog's going to be in the yard, people are like, the remodel scares me. I'll pay $5 million more for the remodeled one.
No question. And so that begs the other side, which is, why don't you spruce up the landscaping and put some lipstick on it and make it look nicer, because you'll get more at the end of the day.
Some people are tone deaf.
Yeah.
The curse of our business is where a seller interviews 4 or 5 agents and they what we call buy the listing. So if something's worth $15 million, everyone's, oh no. It just happened to me last week. A house that I thought was worth $17 million, someone said it's worth $21 million. Now, I know to listeners that might not be that big of a difference, but let me break it to you. Rich people didn't get rich by being stupid. So they're the thriftiest people I've ever met, aka grinders. And they hate paying service people, by the way, or brokers. But I just didn't believe in the price. And I usually am the most optimistic on price. So that other agent, I think, just either saw something that we didn't, but really kind of maybe bought the listing.
And then you put it up for $21 million. If it doesn't sell, you go back and go, hey, it's not me, it's the market. We need to drop it to 9. And you start coming back down.
Yeah, and then half the sellers will fire the agent. The other half are like, we're already in bed with the guy. Let's just move forward, or the gal, and let's just get this thing sold. And it's interesting. Wealthy people like predictability. And the most unpredictable thing is selling your house, right? And it could be a shopping center, but at some point, if you drop a shopping center or an apartment building to a certain cap rate, it's gonna bring in a certain audience. Certain homes, like that one on San Mateo, the 25 San Mateo in Spyglass, if we would have dropped it even one time, from 1899 and not, this is a poker game, right? There's no comp for this house. If we would have dropped it once, that buyer probably would have waited and said, okay, now I'm going to come in much lower. Might have cost the guy $3-4 million.
Right, because the perception is I can't sell it, so I'm just going to lowball you.
Versus like at 3.5 months, it's like, hey, we have a lot of takers. We know what we are. We're a unicorn. And by the way, if I don't get my price, I'll just keep it. So that's the bluff, right? That's the play. It wasn't really bluff in that case. But the interesting thing, the inconsistency of how long it takes to sell something drives these types of clients insane. They're all A-type. They all want to predict the future. They go, if I put my money here, I get a 10% return. And when they sell their house, and after 6 months, it feels like someone like put their kid in like the dunce room. They are that irate that the house isn't selling. And we tell them, like, listen, we told you not to do this. We told you the pricing was off. You don't want to listen to us. And because they've gotten successful, like you're hyper.
But people don't want to hear bad news, I find.
I love giving people bad news.
Yeah. Look, we could do this all day. Paul's waving at me like he wants to go for breakfast, and we're running out of time. I guess I want to ask you, where do you think it goes in 2026 in a general sense, and what are some of the things that concern you? Is it do interest rates even matter in these higher end homes, or
they do?
It's stock market, tariffs, big picture.
Yeah, big picture. Number one, in my client base, right, in the high end market, the stock portfolio equities are the most important thing, right? Because a quarter point here and there, but if your portfolio goes down 20%, a lot of my clients, I would say since COVID especially, because people really increased their portfolio, especially ones that in April 2020, like a few of my clients and good friends threw millions at the market. New people that were worth $5 million in 2019 that are worth $50 million now. You know, that amount of increase, exponential growth in their net worth, I haven't seen, even in 2006. So the bottom line is there's a lot of money out there, and people have more homes than they need, and they have more planes and things like that. Now, real estate is obviously different than some of these other luxury items. So where do we see things going? I think as long as the equities markets and the economy in general stays flat and just fluctuates here and there, and you don't see crazy drops, I think we'll be okay. I think there's not a lot of new inventory, right? Because everywhere else there's like I was just in Miami. Miami, God bless them, they always overbuild, right? They go vertical. So there's going to be more inventory. Here, a lot of people aren't selling because they have these crazy low rates. The big thing is no one's talking about they don't want to pay the capital gains.
Yeah.
So I think there's still going to be low inventory. And what's interesting is I think homes that need to be remodeled because the cost and the annoyance and the time of remodeling has just continually gone up, those homes are going to be discounted because there's an inconvenience factor and an unknown issue with all these different problems of carry cost and whether you got insurance. Just to get insurance on an unoccupied property while you're remodeling it could be $100,000 a year on like a normal kind of entry level nice home in like Greater Newport, right? It's all based on square footage, not the price.
It's a mortgage payment for an average person all by itself.
Yeah, so I think with all what's interesting with all these negative things like fire insurance prices, home prices going up, rates not dropping enough, the market here should have crashed already. It should have. It doesn't make any economic sense.
And so why do you think that is? I say it's because of the weather. And people want to be here, and it's the lifestyle, and so they keep coming.
It's the same reason why your paddock hasn't gone down.
Yeah. Because it's supply and demand.
It's supply and demand.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you want to, like the type of people that live in these certain neighborhoods throughout coastal Orange County, and that's why I choose just to stay in this market, they want this lifestyle. And the lifestyle at the beach is different up in Newport Coast. It's different than it is in Dana Point at the Strand. So in these neighborhoods, there's going to be always limited inventory unless some collapse happens in the market. And even the wealthy people need to sell or want to sell. And the other wild card is you start hearing like billionaire tax, Chevron's leaving, this person's leaving. I think it's going to take a lot more than that to get the diehard like us three, like for us to leave California. Like I love California. I love Orange County. It's my identity. I literally sell the dirt here. I don't know what's going to happen politically, right? People don't like what's happened to the state with homelessness and the waste of money and the fraud, but yet people still love Gavin Newsom. He might run for president. Those are all the wild cards. But I think at the end of the day, the emotional and economic roller coaster, you've still seen prices stay strong, still continually go up. And I think rates dropping, there's a psychological component that once wealthy people can go to their private banks, if the regular rates are 5.5 and the arms are 5, and then people like you
can get a 4,
can get a 4 3/4, then they're like, this is not that bad because everybody got arms. That if your net worth was over $10 million, you definitely got an arm. You didn't get a 30-year fixed on your primary residence because you thought I'll just keep on refining or I'll sell it or whatever. They realize they don't keep the loan or the property for 30 years. So that's where I forecast things going. I think the lifestyle in Orange County, it's very hard to find master plan communities adjacent to the ocean with great school districts, without tourism traffic. And again, I know it's not as safe as it used to be when we all first met, because you probably slept with your door open like I did. Now it's like guns loaded next to the bed. But the point is, it's still safer than LA. Yeah. And on the West Coast, it still is, again, to raise a family and kids go to school and still live and enjoy the weather. It's still the best place in the world to live for that. If you wanted to be single and you want to go party, go move to Miami, right? Yeah. You're not going to stay in Newport Beach.
I agree. If people want to find out more information about you and the company, where do they go? What's the website?
Super easy. Just go to our website, daftariangroup.com. Go to our Instagrams. Just look up Daftarian Group. We're usually on Instagram a lot, but all the social media platforms. You can catch us on YouTube. This year, we're going to put a lot of content out that we didn't the last few years, because I'm always busy doing deals, but we're going to put out more content behind the scenes. So we're going to have some fun with, I think, getting more exposure out there to what happens behind these deals versus people just seeing just sold, just listed. It seems like that's the majority of the marketing, but that's where you can find us. Hit me up on Instagram, DM me if you have any need for, most people just usually call us to ask us to come and look at their house and say what it's worth, even if they don't want to sell it. And if you want to learn more about the business, just go to the website.
Yeah, awesome. Listen, always good to see you and always good to chit-chat.
I do want to say one last thing. I've watched a lot of your shows, these radio podcasts, and I have to say, I'm going to make it a mission, because you are putting out valuable content. You're interviewing interesting people that we're going to get more people to listen to the valuable content, because you're a busy guy. I know you have even less free time than me. So if you're going to take all this time and do this, we're going to push it out there. So I'm going to get my whole team, when we get this video, to repost it, and we're going to show you the power of the internet.
I appreciate that. And then we'll try and take it to the next level. But in the meantime, always good to hear your thoughts on the market. Much continued success to you, your team, your company, your family. Thanks for coming in and sharing some time with us.
Appreciate you, Barry. Thanks so much.
Paul Daftarian, the Daftarian Group. Bill Colston, always good to see you. Paul Roberts, everybody here at OCTalkRadio. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Barry Saywitz. We'll be back here next week with Let's Talk Real Estate.
There you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.